In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to create a below the post opt-in form using Bloom. Now, the below the post opt-in form is an email opt-in form that is displayed below your blog posts, below the post and before the comments. And they can be added to pages as well, not just posts, but most commonly you see these on blogs and online publications. And when a user finishes reading your post, as you see here, they'll be greeted by this nice opt-in form box. Now, to create your first below the post opt-in, you're going to want to head over to your WordPress dashboard and then look for the Bloom tab here and then click on the opt-in forms link. And this is going to bring you to your opt-in forms management tab in the Bloom settings panel. And as you can see, I have this one active opt-in, which is my below post opt-in, and I have some inactive opt-ins as well. And so what I'm going to do is delete this opt-in that you just saw, and I'm going to start over and create one from scratch so you can understand the process. Now, it's an important thing to note that before you can create any opt-in form with Bloom, you first have to add an account to Bloom and an email list. And what that means is you need to add, sync your email marketing software, whatever you're using, whether it be MailChimp or Aweber or Constant Contact or any of the 12 account types that Bloom currently supports on launch, or any of the account types we may add in the future. Most of the times involves copying and pasting an API key from your online account into Bloom and then authorizing that way. But depending on the account, there'll be different authorization steps. And to add a new account, you go over here to the Accounts tab and then click Add New Account. And as you can see here, I've already added several accounts. And we have a different tutorial that goes over this process. And in fact, it goes into detail about every single account type and the steps needed to authorize those accounts. And so I'm not going to go over that here. Please go check out that tutorial. And once you've added your account, you can then move on to the next step, which is creating your opt-in form. And so that's what this tutorial is all about. We're going to be talking about how to create a below the post opt-in form. And to do that, you're going to click this new opt-in button, and this is going to give you a selection of all the different opt-in types that Bloom supports. And you're going to look for below the post here and click on that. And this will begin the opt-in creation process. Now, the first step is to give your opt-in form a name, and this is just something that you can remember it by. So I'm going to be calling it below the post blog because I'm going to add this to my blog posts. And then, like I said, every opt-in form needs to be associated with an email list on an email marketing platform. So you can think of Bloom as kind of the bridge between your email marketing system, such as MailChimp, and your website. And so Bloom takes people who are on your website and subscribes them to those lists. And so you would select your list once you've added it from here. So I've added an Aweber list. I'm going to select Aweber and then select my account and then select the list that I would like these subscribers to be added to. So as you can see, it's already aggregated all the lists from my account and give me a selection here. And I'm going to select this first one. Next up is the design settings. And before you create any opt-in form, the first time you create one, Bloom is going to give you a selection of different pre-made templates that we've created for you. And these can be used on their own. They all look great. We've put a lot of time into making sure these are designed well and look awesome. But you can also think of them as just starting points. So whenever you select a template, you can customize all the different aspects of the template. In fact, all of these pre-made templates are really just different combinations of the Bloom design options. And so you can scroll through here and find a template that looks good to you, and then move on to the customizations part. So I'm going to select this opt-in form here, which is the same one I showed you earlier. And then I'm going to move on to the customization tab. And here is where you can customize the appearance of your opt-in form, as well as adjust the text that's included in the form and the image that's included in the form. These are what we call the design options, and this is one of 3 steps during the opt-in creation process. The same 3 steps you'll find in almost all the opt-in forms. And if you need more information about these design settings, then please go check out our design tutorial where I go into detail about all the different settings, as well as creative ways to use those settings, and kind of some best practices that I lay out for making a good design depending on the opt-in type you're creating. But right now in this tutorial, I'm just going to go over each of them briefly. So first up, we have our opt-in title and opt-in message, and this affects the text that appears in the form. And at any time during the design process, you can click this preview button to get a preview of what you're creating. As you can see, here's the text that's currently added, and I can change that if I like. So since this is going on our blog post, I'm going to say, subscribe to our newsletter to receive daily blog updates. It's a little bit more tailored to these specific users that will be seeing the form, and therefore might have a higher conversion rate. Next up are our image settings, and here you can upload an image and also define where that image appears within the opt-in box. So here, the first step is the image orientation, which you can choose left, right, above, or below the text. Right now it's set to left of the text, but you can change that. So if I change that to above the text and I preview it, you can get a feel for how that looks. And since I've have this smaller centered image now, I might go up here and center this text as well. So the opt-in title and the opt-in message has various formatting options here. And if I take a preview of that, you can see I've centered my text now along with the centered image. It's starting to look nice. You can also adjust the load in animation. So this is the animation that applies to the image once it first loads. And by default, we have this nice slide up and fade in animation. But if you want to change it to something a little bit more exciting, such as this flip animation, which I like, you can do that. Might catch your visitor's eye a little bit better. And you can also choose to hide this image on mobile, which is nice, especially if you have a big header or a big message within the form. The more content in the form, the bigger the form becomes, especially on mobile, where the width of the form is decreased and therefore the height of the form is increased as that content has less and less room to breathe. And therefore you might end up with a form that has such a big image and so much content, as it's squished down, it ends up being actually taller than the height of the phone screen, which can be less effective. So you might actually want to hide that image on mobile, give more room for your text. So you can always hide the image on mobile if that applies to you. Next up is the opt-in styling, which is the background color of the form, and the header and body font. You can choose from a bunch of different Google fonts. You can adjust the text color. So whenever you change the background color, you should also consider what your text color should be, because you want to make sure that text color is visible. So right now we have a dark background color, and therefore we're using light text. But if I were to select a lighter background color, such as white, and preview that, you're going to see that my white text on the white background is totally invisible. That's no good. So we want to change that to dark text so it shows up a little better. So keep that in mind. I'm going to switch back to light text and switch back to our original background color. Now you can also adjust the corner styles. You can choose between square and rounded corners. And if you choose rounded corners, there's going to give a nice rounded edge to each of the four corners of the opt-in box, which could look nice depending on the style of your current theme. And finally, you can also choose a border. So when you select a border type, you're going to get various new options, which is your border color and your border style. And so you're going to want to choose a border color that looks nice with your form. So if you take a look at the border, right now I've chosen to have a full border on all four sides. I've chosen the color of black, but you can also choose to have the border only appear on any of the four sides or any combination of the four sides. So I could have it just on the top or just on the right, or the top and the bottom, or to the left and the right. So I might choose a top plus bottom border. And you can also change the edge style. So we have like a dashed edge, a double border, an inlaid border. So I'll give you a preview of that inlaid border. You can see it adds a little bit of different style. I have now just the border on the top and the bottom. And finally, we have this kind of classic male striped letterhead style border, which is a lot of fun. So you can take a look at that. And I think that looks nice. So I'm going to keep that and move on to the form setup. And here you can adjust where that form appears within the box, and also the text that appears within each input field. So you can have the form to be on the right instead of the bottom, and I'll show you what that looks like. As you can see, the form now is in place on the right, and these form fields have become stacked. Purely an aesthetic choice. Whatever you want to do is fine. And I'm going to put it back on the bottom. And then you can also choose to collect a name. So right now we're just collecting the email address, but if you choose to collect a name, then we'll collect the person's name as well. And you can adjust the button text. So right now it just says subscribe, but if you want to change the language perhaps, or just maybe say join today or something like that, So if I change the join today, you can see that's reflected in the preview as well. Join today. And you can also adjust the text color to light and dark within the button. Moving on to the form styling, you can adjust the form field orientation, and you can choose between stacked or inline. So this affects the actual input fields as well as the subscribe button. Right now they're stacked on top of each other, but if we choose inline, then they'll be placed inline in a single row. I'm sorry, actually I'm going to change to stacked. We already had them inline, so now changing to stacked, they're now going to be stacked on top of each other instead of being inline how we had it originally, where they're in that same single horizontal row. So keep in mind, as you stack the fields, it's going to make the overall opt-in form taller. So if you don't want it to get too tall, you can have it be inline. Next is the form background color. Right now we have it orange, as well as the button color, which is a dark gray. So if you wanted to change that perhaps to like a green color, we could do that. As you can see, the button will become green. And finally, we have our edge styles, which affects the edge between the form and the main opt-in box. Right now, we just have a solid edge, but we might change to something more fun like the zigzag edge. And as you can see here, it affects this edge, right, that separates the form from the text and the image. And finally, we have the footer text, which adds text below the input field. You could have something like a link to your privacy policy, or maybe some kind of reassurance that you won't share people's information, anything that you might want to add there to reassure people that you're not a bad actor and that they should feel safe giving you their email address. You can also adjust the message that appears after someone successfully subscribes. You can either change the language there or just have a different message, whichever you like. And finally, we have the custom CSS area. So if you are CSS savvy and you want to really take control of this opt-in form and add some custom code, you can add it here. If the design options we provided haven't been enough. Moving on to the display settings, this is the third and final step of the opt-in creation process, and much like the design tab, for the display tab, we also have a dedicated tutorial for this where I go into even more detail and really talk about some creative ways that you can use these display settings to create different forms for different pages and for different visitors, and try to tailor these forms for specific purposes. But just to give a brief overview in this tutorial, what the display settings do is just control where your form appears on your website. And you can change where it appears based on different post types. You can select based on different categories, or even select based on individual posts and pages, or even exclude individual posts and pages. So you have full control over exactly where these opt-in forms appear. And so right now, I have this form appearing on posts, but I could also have them appear on pages or any other post type that you have generated for your WordPress installation. So you might have a plugin or a theme that's also generated a new post type. For example, we have Divi installed, the Divi theme, and Divi comes with a project post type. And this project post type is different than posts and pages, and so it appears here, and you could display it on projects as well. But for now, I'm just going to display it on posts. And if I have posts selected, I also get a selection of all of my different categories, and I can include or exclude this opt-in form from posts within any of these categories. But for now, I'm just going to let it display on everything. And finally, we have our individual page and individual posts, inclusion and exclusion. So right now I have it displayed on all posts and only posts, but if I'd want to display maybe on a couple pages as well, I could select a couple pages here to add it to. And if I wanted to exclude any certain posts, right now I have the opt-in form being displayed on my entire collection of posts, but if for whatever reason I wanted to exclude a certain post, I could do so here. And also, you could also target an inclusion for certain posts. So let's say you had all of your posts selected, and then you deselected a couple categories, but then you changed your mind, you actually want to have this opt-in form appear for a couple posts within that category you excluded, you can manually target them here. And so yeah, that concludes the 3 steps of the opt-in creation process. And if you save and exit, you're going to see that your form appears in your active opt-ins list here. Once the page loads, there we go. So here we go, the below the post blog opt-in, which I've just created. I've created this new opt-in, I've adjusted the design settings, and I've chosen to display it on posts only. So if we go over to our main website and we scroll down on this page, well, you're not going to see it here because this is a page, not a post. But if we go over to a post and scroll down, we will see it at the bottom of the post here. Yeah, so that's a basic overview of how you create a below the post opt-in. And just to give you an idea of how easy this is to create new below the post opt-ins, and also how you can target these to different areas of your website, I'm just going to give you a quick example of that. So right now we have this below the post opt-in, and it's being displayed on all of our posts. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that I have this one particular post right here. It's a free icon set, this free resource I've created, and it's just, really blown up. It's gotten really popular, and almost all of our traffic is coming into this one post through Google. And they're all landing on this post and downloading our free icon set. Well, because this post is so important to us, and because we're getting so many visitors to this post, we might want to take this opportunity to create a new opt-in box that's more tailored to these specific visitors and display that post on this specific post. So we could, instead of saying, hey, just subscribe to our blog, we could say, thanks for downloading our icon set, subscribe to our blog and get even more free resources, or something along those lines, right? Something specifically tailored to them. And so to do that, we'd want to create a new opt-in box that would replace this one. So we want to create this new opt-in just for that post. We don't want to display in all of our posts because, this offer or this heading that we're making for the specific audience won't apply to the rest of our posts. We want it just to apply that one post. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use our duplication feature. I'm going to click the duplicate icon, and I'm going to duplicate that below the post opt-in that I just created. And now we have two below the post opt-ins. They're exactly the same, which means right now we actually have two opt-ins being duplicated in every single post on our website. That's not what we want. The reason we created this was actually to have it just be displayed on one particular post. And so I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go over to our design settings, and like I said, I'm going to change this heading and say, subscribe to our newsletter to download all of our free resources. And if you were creating this list, you might set up a welcome email that gives them a download link to even more resources you have. So this is a great way to create a unique offer for these visitors and give them something that they value in exchange for signing up to your list. Moving on to this, due to the display settings, this is where I really wanted to show you how the individual post targeting can come in handy. So what we can do is deselect posts. So right now, this opt-in form is being displayed on nothing. We haven't selected any post types, no categories, nothing. And all I'm going to do is target this single post, this download our free icon set post. So now we've created this opt-in form and just targeted a single post. I'm going to save. And now what I'm going to do is go back to that original opt-in box that we created, and I'm going to exclude that post. So I'm going to come in here, going down to do not display on these posts, and I'm going to select that same post, that download our free icon set post, and save. And there we have it. We have two posts, or two opt-ins, one being displayed as a general opt-in box on our entire blog, and one being displayed just on the specific post with a very specific header to hopefully grab these visitors' attention a little more. And so let's go take a look at these two opt-in boxes on the front end of our website. Heading over to the blog, I'm going to go to just a general post, and we're going to see that first opt-in box we created here. It just says subscribe to our newsletter to receive daily blog updates. But if we head over to our icon set post, we're going to see a different opt-in box, and it says subscribe to our newsletter to download all of our free resources. And there's so much more you could do. You could customize the appearance. You might change this image to be some icons or something else, something that really relates to people, right? And you might change this button to say join today and download, right? There's so much you could do to make this more compelling to these specific visitors. And yeah, that's the basic overview of the Bloom below the post opt-in and also how to use it effectively to get more subscribers to your newsletter.